Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ditto. We are really excited today. We have an amazing guest with us here today. Matt, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes, of course I would. So I've been reaching out to this wonderful man for quite some time now, and he's been more than gracious and willing to respond to probably my really annoying text messages and reaching out on Twitter. And he's like, "Oh, who is this guy? He says he's involved in this." In fact, here the funny story, really quickly. So our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is Morgan Scalley, defensive coordinator for the University of Utah. Hi, Coach. Funny story. So I had a very, very short stint with the University of Utah football program as an intern strength and conditioning coach. So Coach Doug Elisaya was my boss. And as an intern, we were privy to be around the team and to be involved really in everything. And I remember winter conditioning. You had to be there, I think, at 6 or maybe even 5:45. The team would come in and we would meet out and everybody's tired, try to get the juice flowing. You would hear one person singing most of those mornings, and it was Coach Scalley. I remember almost every morning, like, oh, I'm waiting for like some rap song or any song to come on. Who's your choice of music, Coach, that you like to really shout out from the rooftops? Because you did it a lot. It was awesome.
Oh, honestly, any genre of music. And I didn't do it for their entertainment. It was to wake them up because I knew I would be annoying as all get. So.
The energy was so palpable and it was so fun to watch. And that was my very first impression of Coach Scalley. So anyways, who is Coach Morgan Scalley? I'm going to read off some stuff and, credit to Chat GPT. This is what they've provided. So I'm going to, I know this. So I'm going to say it. And then you're going to verify whether this is true or not. Ready? Here we go. So current defensive coordinator, like I just said, and safeties coach. Do you still concentrate on the safeties there at the U? You do. Okay. You are coined, I don't even have to say this, as the head coach in waiting at the University of Utah. So future head coach of Utah football as of, I think it was July of 2024, at least when it was announced to the public, which I think is such an amazing title or whatever, however you want to phrase it, to have. It's really unique, right? Is it not unique?
It's not unique,
no?
Matt. It's just like saying that someone has potential. It just means that they haven't done anything, So there's that the last word there, waiting is the key term there. I've been blessed to be under Kyle entire coaching career and have never had to move my family.
Wow.
And have been treated right the entire time. And I love what I do. I love being a coordinator. I love being a teacher. So I can keep waiting. Trust me.
A head coach in waiting. Okay. And so you alluded to it. Correct me if I'm wrong. 18 years, right, on staff. Is that sound about right?
Yeah, since 2006 in some form.
Yeah. And then you obviously played for the U. You were a safety from, I think it was 01 to 04. So shortly thereafter, you joined the staff, the coaching staff, and have been there since. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, it took me a little to know that I could not hack it in the NFL. And so at least I tried.
Yeah, at least you tried. Yeah. Which is the
bit kind enough to bring me on staff.
Yeah. Awesome. Just some quick coaching highlights here. So one is, I think, awesome. You were the finalist for the 2019 Broyles Award, which is the nation's top assistant coach. And I love this. I swear I've seen this on social media somewhere, and now I know. You developed Utah's RSNB defensive identity. Is that sound? I mean, it stands for, if I'm saying it correctly.
That's our culture.
Yeah, relentless, smart, nasty ball hawks. Is that right?
You got it.
I love it. Okay, perfect. And then, I don't even know how many NFL draft picks. Maybe you have a number, but you've helped coach multiple NFL draft picks. I think it speaks to, again, the culture that you're speaking to here, and that we would love to unpack. I'm including first rounder Devin Lloyd, which was in 2000. 23, 22. When was Devin there?
I think Devin was 2020
Oh,
draft.
2020.
Last year would 20. His last year would have been 2019.
Okay, got it. Wonderful. So there's some coaching, some playing, and really your life from professional standpoint. Personally, you were born and raised right in Salt Lake City. Went to Highland High School. Did I tell you my wife went to Highland? I think I shared that with you, right? Go Rams, didn't I?
I knew that she was special. Hail Highland High, let's go. That's awesome.
Hail Highland High. She was a Highland Ram. She was a cheerleader. She actually cheered at the U as well. So, boom, Utah Highland. Here we go. Coach Scalley served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to Germany. What was the mission in Germany, Coach?
Munich. It's now the German-speaking. I think it's the Alpine German-speaking mission, I think is what it's called now.
Wow.
It includes Switzerland, Austria, where when I served there, it was just Munich, Stuttgart, Nuremberg. And today is like day 1005 on Duolingo. No one speaks German, so I have to keep up on Duolingo.
That's impressive.
Yeah, good for you. I'm trying to keep up on my Spanish, so I was able to serve in Mexico, and I can feel it just slowly being lost, and I'm trying to be consistent with my Spanish as well, because you got to keep it up. German's even, way harder. There's plenty of folks around Utah that speak Spanish, but that's wonderful. And then let's see. So most importantly, I'm going to say this for you, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. You are married. You are married to Liz, and you have 3 children.
You got it. Maddie, Emma, and Andrew.
Maddie, what are their ages?
So Maddie's graduating high school this year. From Olympus High School. Emma is a sophomore, and Andrew is a 7th grader, going to be an 8th grader. Those are our 3. And Red, our dog.
Red,
a mini golden doodle. Yeah, awesome. Red. And our backdoor neighbor, they're big BYU fans.
Wonderful.
And they have a dog named Blue. So Red and Blue wake up every morning and they go bark at each other.
Of course, classic.
That's so great. That is so funny.
That's awesome.
Okay. Anything else, Coach, that needs to be said that that ChatGPT did not deliver for us? And by the way, was that accurate, all of that information? Please correct where needed.
Yeah, it is accurate, but no one cares. And people read a bio, and it's like, okay, here we go. Let's list how awesome this guy is. I'm not awesome. I am been fortunate to be a coach, which I love. I love to teach. I love to develop. Mm-hmm. Have been fortunate to coach some really awesome young men. And I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, what you get by achieving your goals is never as important as who you become. And we've had some young men become awesome fathers, awesome, husbands, and that's what I'm proud of. Mm-hmm. I love Disney. I love music. I speak in movie lines and song lyrics and sarcasm. So I love New York City. I'm a beach bum. This is the stuff that people need to know, not my stupid football.
Yeah.
I love Broadway. Loved my time in Germany, but yeah, that's a little bit more about the personal side of Morgan Scalley.
Well, thank you for sharing that. While we're on that, are you a Netflix? Are you a Paramount Plus? Are you Apple TV? What's your go-to show when you have time? I know you don't have a ton of time, but what's your go-to platform and show? I'm curious.
It's whatever my family's watching at the time. Right now, it's Amazing Race.
Oh, yeah.
It's Amazing Race, and they watch American Idol. But it ends up getting too late. So don't get old, guys. It's so bad. You go to bed. You're like, you think back to your younger years. I'm like, I would never go to bed that early, like Mom and Dad. And now I'm doing it. I get the reminder on my Apple Watch. Hey, time to go to bed. I'm like, yeah, it probably is.
It's funny. I
love Netflix. I love Full Swing. That's good. Probably the one thing I'm probably watching right now.
Yeah. There's so many good documentaries from so many different sports on Netflix right now. Full Swing is definitely one of them. Another one I want to recommend is, what is it called? a season with the Red Sox, I think is the name of it. It came out like a month ago. Really good. It follows behind the scenes everything with the Boston Red Sox. So if you want another one when you have time, throw that on there. Anyways.
Awesome.
Okay, so you just shared a quote, and I'm glad you did this because I was going to start kind of this way and getting into some of these questions. If someone follows you on Twitter, which is like off season because you're off there during the season, which I totally respect and love. You love quotes. You're often, is it every day that you're putting a quote on Twitter? Almost every day?
Right. Yeah. Something every day
Almost
to
every
just put out there to kind of let people into who I am, how I think, what I believe in. I think it's important for recruits. I think it's just important for people in general that need to know we're all human and we all experience darkness and tough times, and we're all trying to just become the best we can become. But yeah, I made the mistake because I go off during the season, but I think when they switched from Twitter to X or whatever he calls it now, you could go off and come back on after a certain amount of time. But I guess after 30 days now, they kick you out of your. So I lost all my followers. I lost
Oh no.
everything. Yeah, so I had to start a new one. It's honestly, it's like not that big of a deal. I'm not a big social media guy, but it is a platform where
Totally.
you can be uplifting, in a space that's really not very uplifting for the majority.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I've followed Coach for quite some time now, and every chance I get on Twitter, you're one of the first ones like, okay, what quote is he tweeting today? I look forward to seeing those. Here's a quote that you recently shared, and this is what I want to, again, use as kind of a springboard into some of these questions. Here we go. Here's the quote. Share your weaknesses. Share your hard moments. Share your real side. It'll either scare away every fake person in your life, or it will inspire them to finally let go of that mirage called perfection, which will open the doors to the most important relationships you'll ever be a part of. Dan Pierce. So let me ask you, why that quote?
Okay.
Why that quote?
Because it's true. It's true of me. I think, I did a fireside, a speaking deal for my daughter. And I thought about the, 10 things I want her to know before she goes off to college. And one of them was seek him, not perfection, meaning Christ. Right. And I'm very strong in my faith, very strong in my beliefs, but I think everyone's trying to be perfect. Not everyone, but I think in seeking perfection, it's easy to get lost in, well, what are people looking for? Instead of just, if I truly seek Christ and how he lived life, how he loved, how he healed, and he lived with and amongst the sinners and loved them, and it didn't care who you were. He just wanted you to become better. And as long as you get to know what that life is like, perfection doesn't matter. Yeah. So if we all knew that each and every one of us has something that we struggle with or something's going on, I think we treat each other a little bit more kinder, and everyone's sick. Everyone needs a physician, and we all need to be kinder to each other.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Just a follow-up question to that. How has Christ / your faith / religion influence your coaching philosophy?
Oh man, quite a bit. And there's things that you go through that completely change how you do things. You go through trials, you go through experiences of your own that open your eyes to pain, that open your eyes to things and allow you to be more empathetic. And they take the blinders off, and they allow you to truly be able to be there for people, right? I think sometimes you experience hard times or you experience hell, and it's like, why is this happening to me? And then the ability um, to look back and say, why did that happen for
Mm,
me? What was I supposed to learn from that? How was I supposed to grow from that? Um, I think Neil A. Maxwell, who's one of my favorites,
mhm,
it's partaking of the bitter cup without being bitter,
mm.
um, is an important quality to have, because life's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading Neil A. Maxwell's biography right now, by the way, and it's phenomenal. The way he speaks is kind of hard to understand sometimes because there's so much in everything he says. But once you can distill down things that you're saying, it's scripture.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
He was the dean of men at the University of Utah, dean of students, and he helped my dad get into law school.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he married my wife and
Oh
I.
my
Oh, wow.
gosh.
So
That's cool.
close with that family. He's since passed away, obviously, but
Yeah.
um, read quite a bit about him and his books simply because of the connection there.
Wow. Beautiful. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think, one of the things, and Ashley, I know you can attest to this, but obviously being a professional athlete, one of the things I'm seeing, come from a research perspective, from just a fan perspective of sport, is it feels like more and more coaches and athletes are starting to share those intimate avenues of their life, like their faith, like their religion. And maybe it's my algorithms that I have on my social media. It's just starting to feed me more and more of the things that I'm liking. Right. But I don't know. Can you two attest to kind of this faith immersion, and people are more transparent of, I believe in Christ, I believe in this, and it gives me power for X, Y, Z. Ashley, do you see that in your kind of experiences, being a professional athlete?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it's similar to how your algorithm works. Like the more that people do share their beliefs or that more personal or intimate side of them, then the more others are willing to and encouraged to also share, because I know you and I, Matt, have talked a lot about like the holistic athlete, and that
Yeah.
you have to take care of all sides of you, mental, physical, and spiritual and emotional. And so when you have all of those working and you're taking care of all of those, then you're going to be your best self, and then therefore you're going to be your best athlete. And so I think the more that we share all sides of us with others, then the more that they feel comfortable, and the more they get to know us, and the more we can just be honest, and we don't have to put on this facade. We don't have to pretend to be someone that we're not. So yeah, I would say that we're seeing it a lot more because more people are willing to share those sides of them.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Along these lines, Coach, going back to some of these questions that we have for you, I really want to get to these questions because I think they touch. I mean, you've alluded to some of them, but I think they'll shed some light on some of the wonderful experiences that you've had as a coach and as a human being. Here's one question: growth often comes through adversity. You were just talking about that. How have your own experiences shaped your approach to leadership, accountability, and mentorship? So learning from mistakes, essentially.
Yeah. So I get so much of my stuff from a guy by the name of Tim Kite. Have you ever heard of Tim
Yeah,
Kite?
he worked with Urban Meyer for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim is awesome. He has passed away. He passed away from
Yeah.
cancer a year and a half, 2 years ago. But in 2017, 16, I became defense coordinator. 17 is when I stumbled upon his stuff. One of my former graduate assistants sent me his podcast, and one of the episodes was an hour-long keynote address he gave to a bunch of people that was, not non-sports related, but a lot of the stuff that he experienced at Ohio State, he shared. But anyway, I've gotten to know Tim Kite's stuff and have adopted it as my own. I mean, I've just and I've done, my entire career, I've been interested not only as a player, but as a coach, but a player as well, of leadership. Studied
Yeah.
leadership, read a bunch of different stuff. Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, Ryan Holiday is one of my favorites. If you haven't read
Yes.
Ego's the
Oh my
Enemy,
gosh.
favorite book in the entire world. Um, but and so when I heard his take on leadership, it was like a revelation. It was simple. It was concise. It was so much meat packed into 1 hour keynote address. And so I listened more and more to his stuff. And, he talks about, in a lot of what he does, he talks about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the growth mindset, and this is plastered on every single wall in each of our position rooms. The growth mindset is simply, building a skill takes time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
I will invest the time and be tenaciously persistent. I understand that discomfort is part of the process, but if I avoid discomfort, I prevent learning. I will make mistakes and they will teach me. I want feedback and coaching. And this is what has happened to me. I have made mistakes, some bigger than others, but man, have I made mistakes. And if I don't allow those mistakes to teach me how to become more loving, more giving, more empathetic, better in a skill or whatever that is, then I have not allowed the experience to benefit me. Whatever that experience is supposed to be. I've experienced hard times. I've experienced stuff that I put myself in those hard times, those dark times. And I can sit back and I can be like, oh, poor me. Or I can really look at it and be like, hey, how am I going to learn from this, grow from this, become better from this, and move forward? And so that growth mindset really resonated with me, and it has resonated with our players. Them seeing me be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And when our players see me own up to my mistakes, guys, that was a bad call. That was a horrible call on my part. Should not have put you in in those circumstances. It opens them up to say, okay, you know what? He is, he's human too. And there's that connection, right? Leadership is not it's not authority based on a position you've been given. Just because you're a coach doesn't make you a leader. Just because you're a president doesn't make you a leader. Leadership is influence based on trust you've earned, and you earn that trust through character, competence, and connection. Character being who you are every day. Are you a person of integrity? Do what you say you're going to do? Do you show up in a genuine way? Competence. It's not just how smart you are, how intelligent you are, how much you can spout off. It's your ability to use your knowledge and expertise and experience on behalf of others,
Mm-hmm.
getting them to learn. You ever had a teacher that knew a whole lot but couldn't get you to learn?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all had
Yeah.
those, right? But competence trust is I'm teaching them something in a way that they grasp it and they have success from it. They're going to come back to me. You know what? Coach gave me this footwork drill. It's helping me make more plays. I'm going to go back to him. And then finally, connection. That's what we're talking about right now. That's what Ashley was talking about. That connection piece is so important. Yeah. And they want to know that holistically you're invested in them, not just them, the athlete. They're going to hold many titles in their lives in sports, but none more important than mother or father. And are you helping them become a better one of those,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense?
Yeah. Ashley, we've talked about growth mindset on this podcast before, haven't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's super important. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I try to describe, especially when we're teaching this and talking about this, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it's a continuum. And so you can be anywhere in the middle, but essentially it's either you're dynamic and you're moving or you're fixed and you're set in stone. And so this, I mean, you think of this in terms of physical training. If we're doing a dynamic stretch, we're moving. If we're doing a static stretch, we're staying still. Fixed is staying still. Whether you're the top of the game and you don't feel like you can get any better, you're staying still. And so progression isn't in that orientation, even if you think you're the best, or maybe even objectively the best. Anyways, and then this growth mindset orientation is being continually moving and going through these moments inside and outside of whatever domain it might be in, and finding those moments of progression and continuing moving along those experiences. And so I want to ask you, Coach, with that, all that in mind, so beautiful, so wonderful, what have been some of the toughest moments you faced in and out of football? And how have those experiences from especially this growth mindset orientation influenced you as a coach / person?
Oh man, I would say, right out of college, getting ready for the NFL, getting ready. I was about to join the first arena football team in Utah, the Utah Blaze, and about to head in for a press conference announcing me, and my wife has a miscarriage, and that was a very difficult time.
Wow.
And then I would say what happened in 2020 with the racism deal, and not a lot of people know the full background of that, and not I mean, everyone doesn't need to know. What people need to know is that Morgan Scalley, screwed up. That I was an extreme lack of judgment on my part, and it was really tough because I was called a racist, and I'm still to this day by people that really don't know me called a racist, when I despise racism.
Yeah.
Despise it, and it was difficult because it was during a very politically charged time. It was during COVID.
Yeah.
It was during a time when racism was a big, being brought back up, and it was a big deal with Malcolm Floyd and all that was going on there. And man, all I can say is, I have taken everything from that experience and tried to become someone who can help, whether it's someone else is being dealt with in a tough way, or someone else is being attacked, or, I took so much time really studying the history of our nation. I became a student. Of our history, of African American history, and read so many books, and have helped our players come, every February comes around, and we study and we work, and we our guys do presentations on African American history. It's just taking what was so difficult and turning into something that can be so beautiful. And ever since then, I really looked at the process I went through, and it's easy to look at my situation and judge, right? Where if people fully educate themselves, they may come to a different understanding of what's going on. Education leads to understanding. Understanding could lead to empathy, and empathy leads to action. So we have these EUEA bracelets that we wear around, and we remind our players that, hey, we live in a society where it's quick to judge, quick to respond. You see something and you want to respond on Twitter, you want to respond on email, and first educate yourself. Really, before you cast judgment, educate yourself. And then you may learn, oh, it wasn't that way. It wasn't that. and it allows for you to be maybe a little bit more empathetic towards situations and allows you to act in a meaningful way. So that's kind of how I've tried to take the pain in my life and how can I turn it for good? How can I be there for others? How can I help other people not go through the same thing?
Mm-hmm. Wow, there's so much in there. Thanks for sharing that. And
Sorry, I know.
No,
no,
that's great. Thanks for sharing.
The vulnerability and that, like you were speaking to earlier, is amazing. With all that, I'm so glad you touched on EUEA because you put that in your quotes when you quote on Twitter, and I've been wondering what the heck that means, and now I know. So thanks for sharing that. It's amazing to me, just from a human experience perspective, how much we not get but have to learn when we go through difficult situations, and sometimes they're extremely difficult, and most of the time there's just no other way to learn it. And my wife and I are learning this the last few years. We've moved all over the country and trying to figure out where we can settle. And here I go being personal, and we're trying to figure that out and find a place to raise our kids. But we go to all these places and we go, oh, we wouldn't have known them. We wouldn't have known this place had we not lived in Texas, had we not lived in Tennessee, had we not lived here, because we had to go do it. We had to go through these hurdles, these mountains, which sometimes it felt like,
right,
to gain that understanding and empathy, like you were talking about. It's just amazing to me.
And sometimes that what you're going through is not what you can feel. You feel it's not fair. And another great quote by Neil A. Maxwell: "Hey, if it's fair, it's probably not a true trial."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You may need that sense of unfairness to really go through what you need to become better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To become what God wants you to become.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like our Savior is a perfect example of that. I mean, I feel like everything that he went through was not fair. And I feel like when I am going through moments like that where I'm like, this isn't fair, like, how am I supposed to deal with this? Like, sometimes the world will tell you, like, oh, no, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to defend yourself. But sometimes it's like, no, I just need to, like, swallow my pride and sit here and humble myself and be as kind and loving and patient with myself, with others, whatever this situation may be. And I oftentimes don't think I could do that if I didn't have an example like the Savior in my life, because that's how he lived his life. And he didn't have any reservations to just extend love to everyone, even though they treated him terribly. So yeah, I think I love that quote that you said, like, if it's fair, it's probably not a true trial. And I feel like that couldn't be more true. I feel like sometimes we have moments where, it's a really big moment, or like for me the other day, it was like in film, the coach was like, oh, you did this wrong. And I wanted to be like, well, this is why I did this, blah, 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 and kind of explain myself, but I just swallowed it. I was like, nope, you're right. Like, technically that was wrong. I will learn and be better. Instead of like trying to explain myself, justify myself, and make myself feel better. I just swallowed it and I was like, nope, I'm going to learn and we're going to move on, because that's what I should be doing. So sometimes it's big moments and sometimes it's even little moments like that. But if we want to learn, we need to be able to do that. And if we want to grow, we need to be able to do that.
Totally.
Powerful.
Yeah. And this will lead into my next question here, Coach. It's amazing when we're going through these different experiences, and on top of that, we're given a platform to be a leader, to be able to lead others, whether we're a coach or a teacher or a parent or whatever. And if we're smart about it and we can utilize this growth orientation, how influential that can be on those that we're leading, whether it's the vulnerability piece or it's just, hey, my experience is this is what I can learn and this is what I can teach you. It can be really, really powerful. So here's my next question in this kind of leading young men realm of things. What are some of the biggest challenges and responsibilities in your experience that come with leading young athletes, both as players and as people?
Well, I would say, um, as part of the the growth mindset, I that statement, I want feedback and coaching. Not a lot of people want that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of kids, 17, 18 year olds, they just want to be told how awesome they
Mm-hmm.
are. You're incredible. You're a 4-star, a 5-star. Look at all your offers. Hashtag blessed. All this, they don't want to be told, hey, you need to clean up your footwork. You need to get more flexible. You need to spend more time in yoga. That's something, and so in the recruiting process, we really look for the young men that are willing to,
Mm.
that want that feedback, want that coaching. We live in, I don't love where college football is heading with transfer portal, NIL, everyone telling
Mm-hmm.
the players, go get yours, go get your bag. Teams win championships, period. And, if it's all about the individual, go play singles tennis,
Mm-hmm.
go run the 100 meters, but there's a reason, Patrick Mahomes, perfect example last year, of the top, so annually top 10 paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. You won't find Patrick Mahomes in the top 10.
Mm.
That's crazy to
Yeah.
me, right? But he's got the highest contract, but he restructures every year so that that the team can bring in guys, they can bring in pieces versus
Good point.
Tyreek Hill. Hey, I want to be the highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League. And based on his production and what he did, he probably deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
And but the Chiefs, hey, we have to field the team. We can't just pay you all this money. And they let him go to Miami, and he was in Miami and watched the Chiefs win 2 more Super Bowls without him.
Mm-hmm.
Teams win championships. So helping young men understand it's about the team. We have a part of our culture is, you don't celebrate by yourself. We call those hooray me moments on film when they're just pounding their chest and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about you. You celebrate together. You doing your job was a, you know 10 other guys doing their job is probably why you made that play. But I think so much of it is providing a culture where they can learn that, where you hold them accountable to it. Job of a coach is to provide clarity, accountability, and support. Make sure the players understand what their role is from A to Z. Be very clear. Ashley, ever been yelled at for something that you didn't think was made clear? Isn't that
Yeah, so
frustrating?
frustrating.
Yeah. So clarity, and I tell us all, I'll have players out there on the field, coach, clarity, clarity. I'm like, shut up, clarity. They're just, doing what I ask them, but and then accountable, hold them accountable to it. And every time I say accountability, people think discipline. Accountability is just feedback. It's, here's what we've asked, here's where you're at, here's how we can get you where we need you to be. But I'm going to hold you accountable to it, regardless of who you are. Freshman walk on versus a scholarship senior, doesn't matter. The standard's the standard, the culture is the culture, and we're going to hold you accountable to it. And then support. They need to know that you're on the cutting edge, that you're doing everything you can do to be the best at your profession. Are you, as a coach, developing and growing? Do you think you have all the answers? What are you doing to show your players that you're teaching it the right way, you're doing it the best way possible? So those 3 things, you have to provide your players. And in this day and age where everyone's telling them it's all about them, that's the difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like an
I can't
uphill
imagine.
battle. I feel
Yeah.
like one question I do have, one thing I really respect about football is the clarity thing makes sense because every play, everyone has to be on the same page. No matter what your role is, if you want it to be a successful play, everyone needs to know what's happening and do the right thing, take the right amount of steps here, cut here. It's always very, very impressive. But when you talk about, these new kids coming in and trying to teach them the culture. I've been playing for 9 years now, and it's been interesting to see the generational shift of how players respond, especially me as a captain or a leader, how I can lead like other players that are kind of more like my temperament and my old school mentality. And now these younger players that are coming in at like 15, 16, 17, 18, and the way that they respond is very, very different than the way that I would respond. How have you been able to manage, like the changing of the generations and the different styles of players and different personalities with like maybe the older players, or how do you kind of facilitate that cohesion with this like younger generation? Like, have you had to kind of evolve as a coach and a leader as well, or what does that look like?
100%. You have to evolve as a coach. That's a part of caring. That's a part of connection. That's a part of understanding what they're going through, the changes they're going through, what's important to them. It's also important to have people on your, particularly players. Player led is so much more important than coach led. There's 4 types of people in any organization, and that's any organization, any business. Number 1, you've got your cynics, the ones that nothing's right. They're the energy vampires that suck everything out of all life out of your team. And you got to love the cynics up, but you can only spend so much time before they need to go, right? If they can't flip the switch, if they can't understand what you're doing and they don't want to become a part of the journey that you're on, they're going to drag people down. The next group are compliant. They're just happy to be there. They're happy to have the Letterman jacket and be a part of the social aspect of being on a team, but they're not doing anything extra. They're the clock in, clock out group, right? I'm just doing what you asked me to do. Then your committeds, right? The committeds are the ones you want in your program. They are doing the extra in the weight room, in the film room. They're doing extra. And then finally, compelling. And this is where I think, we've been fortunate is you've had those upperclassmen be compelling. They bring others with them. They grab the young freshmen and, hey, let me show you the benefit of doing it this way. Let me show you what I've been through. But compelling requires you to get uncomfortable. It requires you to go sit down with the younger crew and get to know them and conversate and not sit there on your phone. It's much easier I'm just going to worry about me. But compelling requires you to get uncomfortable, and that's a part of the growth mindset. Embrace discomfort. And that's the only way you learn and grow and get better. And we talk about, and this was a Tim Kite deal, 20 square feet. Have you ever heard of that?
I think I have.
Maybe. It sounds vaguely familiar.
There's layers of culture in an organization. Team-wide culture, then you have your departments, in football, offense, defense, special teams. That would be the divisions. Your departments are going to be your position groups. And there's culture in each one of these. But the most important piece of your team is each individual's 20 square feet. That's their sphere of ownership in your program. That's their, the inside their 20 square feet, they determine what happens. I can't sit there and force you to get it done. You and you alone will, I can tell you, like, again, it's my job to be clear. Here's what you're supposed to do. You can own that. And a lot of people spend a whole lot of time outside their 20 square feet, pointing out how things are wrong, how they're getting mistreated, how I'm not getting paid as much NIL as this person or whatever. Inside your 20 square feet, you have complete ownership. Outside your 20 square feet, you have influence. So if you want to maximize your influence on others, right, outside your 20 square feet, maximize the control inside your 20 square feet. And that's what our guys have done to become compelling, is they own theirs. And now they have influence on others, and they can bring others along with them.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I'm glad you reminded me of it. It's powerful. I was just watching, in fact, Coach Whittingham's interview. I forget who it was with. He was out on the balcony with some guy that Bright Cycle Stadium was in the distance. It was a recent interview. Who was that with? Do you remember who it was with? Anyways.
Doesn't he look good,
He
though?
looks great.
Doesn't Coach Whit?
He looks fantastic. I love his long hair, by the way. Every time he grows out his hair, I'm like, yes, Coach. If you're that old with that hairline, you got to grow it out. Like, keep it going.
Yeah, if you don't have hair, we do. We put hats
I
on.
know. I wear a hat all the time. One, because my hairline isn't great. Anyways, besides the point, this is what Coach Whittingham said. I'm paraphrasing because it speaks, or I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly what he said, but it speaks to what you were just saying. If players leave our program only as better football players, we have failed them. He said something like that. And it's speaking to this. It's speaking to holistically looking at this person, taking ownership, taking responsibility, because yes, it's going to translate on the football field and help us be more successful and score more points. But guess what? Only 2% of you are going to go to the NFL. So it's also going to help you in business. It's also going to help you in relationships. It's also going to help you in graduate school, whatever it might be. And so that for me has spoken volumes, especially in my early days of being connected to the program. I recognize the importance of that, the emphasis on holistic development. And these are human beings, mind, body, spirit, emotion. They're not just machines trying to beat other machines. And if we can, hone in and develop this whole person, they're going to be that much better off collectively and especially individually. So I love it.
There's skill sets that are sport specific, and then there are skill sets that are transferable. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. They matter. Mm-hmm. Ashley, what have you learned from soccer that once you're done playing, it's going to matter in any industry you go into? What are those transferable skill sets you've learned playing soccer?
Oh my gosh, so many. I feel like the first that comes to mind is just like consistency. I feel like that's the only way to like truly make progress is like day in and day out, like those little things that make a huge difference. A lot of the times like young players will look at professional athletes and just think it like happened like that, but it's like, no, you need to like show up every single day, do the little things that matter. And also relationships, the way you treat teammates, the way you treat coaches, like it's a very small world. And so if you treat someone poorly, they're most likely going to come back around and be in your life in some capacity. And that could
Totally.
be another teammate. That could be a coach. They could be your boss one day. So I feel like those are just a few lessons that come to mind. But I've learned so much through the game of soccer that has really helped me in life. And I know that's going to help me continue on whenever I decide to finish playing. But yeah, so many lessons.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got my master's in business at the University of Utah, and they asked me on my application, "What's your business experience?" I didn't have any. Mm-hmm. As a football player, that was my profession. But but I started to think about it, and I started writing down. I perform my job in front of millions of people. I perform my job under pressure. I work with people from different backgrounds, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. The value of leadership, the importance of discipline, showing up on time, giving feedback, receiving feedback. And the more I wrote, the more I'm like, heck yeah.
I'm overqualified. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. And it must have worked because I got in. But those transferable skill sets, I mean, there's a reason why you get these headhunters out there looking for people, and the first place they go is athletics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they coin this, at least in the business world, as soft skills, hard skills versus soft skills. And really interesting story, the hard skills, terminology and kind of phenomenon behind that. It happened in the military. I think it was World War II, and hard skills was for tank operators, I believe. So actually hard on the tank, being able to do something technical that was, in their minds, hard. This is a hard objective and a hard machinery that you're operating. We're calling these hard skills. The soft skills, at least in the training manuals, were described as non-technical skills to operational success. but they're just as important, if not more important, like the time management, Ashley, the consistency, the responsibility, all of these things, right, that translate into arguably every single domain that we might find ourselves in. So I love it. Okay. Coach, I have another question for you. Maybe two more questions. We're going to slowly wrap up here. We've taken a lot of your time. There's something that I've been extremely interested in since my doctoral days, and that's this concept called bracketed morality. Basically, it's unpacking the title here. We, especially in a sports setting, tend to bracket our morality. So when we go on the football field, in theory, we can put our morality in the locker room and become a different person. We don't need to have morality or morals on the football field. And I distinctly remember my brother-in-law played football. I distinctly remember training with him when I was playing high school football, and he became a different person. And I remember thinking, wow, like this is interesting. I haven't heard him talk like this or say these things before. And now in studying it, it's been really interesting to me. So I want to ask you, you mentioned flip the switch earlier. And we all, I think, know what that means, especially for us sports fans, athletes, coaches, researchers, et cetera. How have you helped players navigate that, and maybe yourself as well, in transitioning while maintaining character and integrity? Because I think we can, correct me if I'm wrong, still flip the switch and still be a decent human being. So how can we find that balance? How have you helped your players find that balance? How have you helped yourself find that balance in something as highly as competitive as NCAA football, D1 football?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you want to define morality.
Sure.
But you can have hard coaching and still have your players know that it's out of love. The whole deal that we talk about our coaching staff is it's never personal. It's all about behavior. Behavior wins championships, not scheme. Right? So teach what winning behavior looks like and hold them accountable to it. Right? It's one thing to say that is not a physical tackle. It's another thing to attack the player. You're not physical. That's attacking, it's here's what's required to win and to win at a high level, and let's get you there. I've had plenty of coaches that have had the worst language ever, but who I absolutely love, who are amazing people, who I knew that they were getting after me because they loved me. They wanted the best from me. It's another thing to know that they go home and do things that they shouldn't be doing. That's, to me, it's all about helping me, if I'm a player, right, become the best person I can become. Right. And teaching these skill sets, teaching these mindsets, helping them understand how to handle, Marcus Williams, a perfect example of a kid that goes on second round draft pick to the Saints, and in his first season or two ends up missing the tackle against Stephon Diggs in the Minnesota Miracle, or whatever they call it. I'm sitting there going like, my gosh, he is going through it, and everyone is getting after him on social media. And so I fly out to New Orleans and I sit with him and I say, this will only define you if you let it. Wow. And he's one of the highest paid safeties in the National Football League. He's spent almost double-digit years climbing, getting close to it in the NFL. I'm so proud of the way he's responded and how he's dealt with it. He's such an amazing young man, but there's hard things that you go through, and people can say, well, they deserve it. They're getting paid. No one deserves to be treated like crap. Yeah. No one deserves to be treated less than a human being. And man, can that be difficult for people to understand, particularly fans who have no control over the situation. So they go crazy. and it's just it's difficult. I appreciate the fans. I appreciate their passion, but these are still human beings out there trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
So to me, it's all about intent. It's all about, you know, and really, just like in the gospel, by their works ye shall know them, right? Not by their words.
Mm-hmm.
How different would that scripture be if it was by their words ye shall know
Totally.
them, right? It's what are they doing? How are they showing up? Are they showing up in a meaningful way? You ever looked at Dean Schneider on YouTube? This is the guy that lives with lions.
No. No.
You've seen these clips. He's from Switzerland.
Okay.
And he grew up with a pride of lions. He decided he was going to do this. And so you can find him on, I'm dead serious, YouTube this guy. He's amazing in what he teaches. And he does this, I think, 6-minute one where he's answering questions. They're like, how do you cuddle a lion? He says, you don't. They're apex predators. You don't cuddle a lion. The only reason I'm able to do this and be with the lions is because I live with them every day. And the reason I'm able to do this is because I love them, and love is a tricky word. I sacrifice. I do what's in their best interest, and how interesting is that definition, right? And then he says, I love how he talks about it. He says, if I'm with the lions, and all of a sudden they're getting dirty and they're eating, and I'm and I get blood on me and I back away. If I back away, they know I'm not a part of them. Whereas I stay with them, right? Through thick and thin, in the good, in the bad times. How many times, like last year in a 5-7 season, do I separate from the players, or do I become closer with them? Do I sit in their pain, sit with them when they're going through that? That's when they know I'm with them, right? Yeah. It's easy to be kind and gracious and awesome when everyone's winning. You find out real quick who someone is when the losses come and adversity strikes and all that happens. I'm sure you've seen that, Ashley. But yeah, that's how I'd answer that morality question. Is it's by their works ye shall know them.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful way to answer that. Well, I think it speaks volumes to your team and culture. I was talking to somebody close to your program the other day, Coach, and the 5-7 season came up, and he mentioned the locker room was never lost. The guys still loved each other. They still fought for each other, and I think a lot of people on the outside would not have realized that or don't know that, even with the record being what it was. Yeah, so I think it speaks volume to your works and the coaches that you associate with, your colleagues. Ashley, do you have any more questions for Coach?
No, I mean, I feel like we asked him a lot of really good questions and he had even better answers. So thanks so much for answering all of our questions and teaching us so much. I mean, I learned a lot today, so thank you so much. Yes. I really appreciate it.
Love what you two are doing. I love it.
Thank you.
Spread the good news.
Thank you.
Continue to talk things that matter. And thanks for having me, sincerely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Coach. Here's my last question. You guys have hired some new coaches this year. We at Ute Nation are excited for the 2025 season. How are we looking? Where's the optimism? Where's the hope heading into this upcoming season?
Very excited. The spring was fantastic. Good. I love the energy coming from the other side of the ball. Devin Dampier at quarterback is going to be dynamic. The offensive line's incredible. I'm excited. This is a good group of young men. And there's obviously, to have a great season, you have to have things bounce your way at times, and staying healthy is a part of that. Yeah. But love what we have coming back and excited for another season.
Beautiful. Okay. Can't wait. Go Utes. Awesome. Thank you again, Coach, for coming on here. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay.
Just finished our conversation with Coach, And honestly, I could have so many dittos of the day. I didn't know that he was such a quote
I know, right?
library, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. I feel like every story he just like whipped out a really good quote, which was like really impressive.
I know. Yeah, I've honestly, Ash, I don't know if I've ever felt like such a student before with some of our guests. We've had amazing guests on, but I was just sitting back, like taking mental and physical notes, like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was good. Oh, that was good. I need to look up this word. Oh, okay, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, all those acronyms and stuff. I was like, oh, dang it, say that again. We need to write that down.
I know.
But I feel it sounds like those acronyms and those standards are like ingrained in their staff's DNA and then also in the players' DNA and the culture. And I think that's really cool to see because you could tell how easy it was for him to talk about all of those things and those standards, which is really cool.
I know, and it's interesting to me. I think he's going to continue to be really successful when he steps in ultimately to this head coaching role. But it's super interesting to me how they are maintaining, and in his words, will maintain this identity when the world of college sports is me, NIL, me. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be hard for him. I really do, but that doesn't mean they can't be successful. And maybe the tides will shift a little bit and it won't be about me as much as it is right now, but it just seems difficult, you know, to maintain such a you're going to be us, we're not going to be you type of culture. Mm-hmm. And Utah football has been good at that, and I think they will continue.
I mean, it's important, and I think if they stick to those standards, they'll attract the right people. And when you set yourself apart like that, then you're going to get the people that want to be there for the right reasons, and it will just be even more beneficial to your culture. But like you said, it will probably be a little bit more difficult just because of the way of the world nowadays. But I think they can do it. So it sounds like they got a pretty solid standard already and a history and foundation, which is really cool. Yeah,
absolutely. Speaking of the conversation, Ashley, what was your DO? TD. I'll get it one of these days. Ditto of the day. What was your ditto of the day with Coach Morgan Scalley?
My ditto of the day was the first quote that he shared, and I think I typed it out right. Hopefully I did because he said it quickly. But it was, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as who you become. And I feel like that was really powerful, and that really resonated with me because when I look back on my career, it's the person that I've become and the person that I'm trying to become that I'm most proud of, and I think will be my biggest accomplishment when I look back on my career, rather than like the goals or the championships or the trophies, even though we are always working for those championships. We're always working for those trophies, but it's the person that we become. It's the character that we build, the relationships that we build. That is actually the most important. So yeah, I really appreciated that quote that he shared.
Totally. Yeah, again, I think there's so much to that quote and to everything that he shared. I think we could talk about this for a long time. Well, here's my ditto of the day. I'm trying to distill this down into just one kind of theme, but he mentioned, especially towards the end there, by their works ye shall know them. I think that comes from the Bible, if I'm not mistaken. Ether, maybe? I don't know. Someone can quote me on the scripture. Anyways, not Ether. Amos? What scripture am I thinking of, Ash? By their works ye shall know them. We're just going to continue with it.
Yeah, that's what Google is for. We'll Google it later.
It stood out to me because I feel like he's been through a lot. And he mentioned this racial experience that he had in 2020. I didn't know his wife had a miscarriage when he was first trying to get into the league, or at least into professional football. I think he mentioned arena football. And then just like going through NIL and going through all these changes and having to adapt, but still maintaining the best that he could, his integrity, his character. even though he's a human being and he makes mistakes just like all of us. Some of them big, some of them small, some of them anywhere in between. But if we can, I think, venture back to that integrity line, so to speak, that's what's important. And recognize that what I did was wrong. I'm going to be better. And here's what I'm going to do. And I think he's a great example of that. I really do. Of kind of this repentant, transformative type of individual that recognizes the frailties and the sinful and difficult things that we do as human beings, but overcoming them and learning from them, and again having works or habits or behaviors that reflect who we truly want to be and who we truly know we are. And as we struggle as human beings and make mistake after mistake after mistake, the resilient mentality orientation is to learn from it, to admit to have vulnerability, and to admit and to move on and to be better, or to be as best that we can as a result of these difficulties. And I think he's done a phenomenal job of that. So
yeah,
anyways.
Definitely. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for inviting your cool friends and guests onto our podcast. I feel like this is a great episode, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners will learn a lot. So if you learned a lot and you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe, or give us any comments or feedback. We're always eager to hear how you guys are enjoying Ditto, and enjoy the rest of your week, wherever you are in your week when you're listening to this.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.